Dan just reminded me that I skipped right over a kind of a review of the cast.
I look kind of like him, that's why I remember.
I know, thank you. I just managed to go right by me. Mary Garden, obviously, took the role of Natoma. Lillian Grenville took the role of Barbara. And John McCormick. This was one of the earliest things that John did over here in America. He's an Irishman, and I believe Tetrazzini found him and said, "You must see Oscar Hammerstein." And that's how John got over here. A couple of things. This opera stayed in the Chicago Opera Company's repertoire for 3 seasons. It played 30 performances. 30 for a brand new opera. I don't think the brand new operas of today managed to get from man 30 performances. They never played to an empty house. And this is despite all the awful reviews they got, which we'll get to in a second. Awful reviews. Reviews like you're going to sit there and say, "Oh my goodness." The people came, the audiences came, and Oscar Hammerstein was all about opera for the people anyway. So he wouldn't have cared terribly much about the critics. Unfortunately, Joseph Redding did, and also Victor Herbert did. But it managed to hit Philadelphia, New York, Baltimore, St. Paul, Washington, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. Spent a lot of time out on the West Coast. Why did it fail? It was born into the single nastiest, most acid atmosphere it could possibly have been born into. Why not just take the baby and dump it in a vat of acid? With the Metropolitan hating Oscar and Oscar hating the Metropolitan, there was no way it was going to be a healthy situation. But yet, it was written, it was born, and it played very well for 3 seasons. It was in English. There was a bit of a difficulty here. Mary Garden could speak English. Ms. Grenville could speak English. Mr. McCormick could speak English. The whole rest of the company couldn't. They were all Italians and Frenchmen. And most of the critics said, "Well, I could understand every 5th word, 1 in every 5 words." So, and they're singing in English, well, what difference does it make? We can't understand. Now, you go to an opera today and sung in English, and what do you have? Subtitles, or pieces of paper in your lap. It's hard to sing in English. In foreign languages, you get to sing on the vowels. English doesn't have very many pretty vowels. It's a bit of a problem. This opera was ahead of its time. You heard the prelude, 16 measures. It was introspective in a lot of ways. Its leading lady sang huge numbers in each of the acts, but then spent the majority of the acts silently watching. On stage, in front of everybody, acting for 60%, 70% of the act. Very, very difficult to do, to pull off. And very strange. Everybody kept waiting for her to sing. But she wasn't staged to sing. And he didn't write anything for her to sing. It's not like he didn't neglect her. He just gave her introspective moments more than he gave her active moments. The orchestra parts, the original orchestra parts, were cut with brown paper and paste at some point, to the point where the original orchestra parts are totally unplayable. At least, we're not sure. We've looked at them. It's what happened. Alice pulled out those parts at the Library of Congress, and I said, the whole thing has to be restored. You can't play these parts. I think they were eventually cut down for a 45-minute radio show. You can't play an opera of which 60% is gone. It just doesn't work. It took us a year. It took us 3 full years to restore this opera. as those of you who were in the room on that famous July 14th, heard. It's difficult. It's a difficult opera to do. The orchestra is the star, and it's a difficult score to play. Ask any of our orchestra members. They played it in a record amount of time, but when they were done, they were exhausted. Absolutely exhausted. And the singers, it's a difficult, you've heard now several excerpts. It's difficult singing. It's not easy stuff. So that all would have made, and yes, the libretto does have problems. It's too long. It needs to be cut judiciously. There are things about it that you can't fix. For instance, Natoma goes through a dagger dance in which she kills the cousin who was going to marry Barbara. Well, Barbara says, no way, I'm marrying Lieutenant Paul. And so the cousin decides to kidnap her. Natoma overhears it, and that's what the famous dagger dance is all about. She's challenged, and she accepts the challenge to the dagger dance to get to the daggers, and then as Alvarado is carrying Barbara off, she kills him. The town gets a bit upset and chases her, and the good padre of the church brings her into the church and saves her. And that's where we are in our last excerpt of the night. We're in the third act. We're in the beginning. Natoma begins every act with absolutely incredibly gorgeous and long arias. What you have heard tonight has been cut down so that we could get in as much as we could, but it's incredibly long, difficult singing. And in the church, Natoma suddenly decides to face the realities of the situation that she's gotten herself in. She has killed a man. The only safe place for her at the moment is the church. The father has been asking her to join the church anyway, and this is Natoma beginning to face the reality.